The number of Americans filing for first-time unemployment benefits fell to another pandemic-era low last week. 290,000 people filed new jobless claims for the week ending October 16th. That is down 6,000 claims from the previous week. It is the second straight week new claims have been below the 300,000 mark, and the third consecutive week initial claims have been declining. But the latest monthly hiring numbers were half of what was expected, and many businesses are still struggling to bring in new employees. Joining us now is Mark Hamrick. He's the senior economic analyst for Bankrate. Hi, Mark. Great to see you. So first-time jobless claims have fallen for 3 straight weeks. That seems like good news. What do these latest numbers tell us about the state of the economy, and does this suggest businesses are working to keep employees during the ongoing labor shortage?
That's right, Tanya. Good to see you. You know, we've been tracking this upturn in new jobless claims for 83 straight weeks of this pandemic-caused economic event. And when we had that move to the upside, we went up essentially to about 6.9 million in the earliest iteration of that. So we're talking about something that's now below 300,000. We got below 1 million new claims in August of last year. So quite the journey. But to your point, this indicates that fresh job loss or layoffs are not the key issue for the economy right now. If anything, employers are more desperate to find the workers they need. And you can lump that along with the supply chain disruptions that are causing limiting supply of goods and components for construction or manufacturing. And that, of course, has then led to inflation, which I don't think many people had on their bingo card to occur here during the pandemic.
Sure. And how long, Mark, do you expect it will take until we see jobless claims and hiring rates return to pre-pandemic levels?
Well, for example, as you said at the outset, the unemployment rate is now at 4.8%, and it wasn't that long ago the Federal Reserve had that in its sights in terms of where they thought we would end the year. So that progress has been more substantial and quicker than expected. Of course, a lot of federal dollars have been thrown at this problem, so that's one of the ways to explain that. So you could say that we are essentially back in a more nominal range with unemployment. Where we are not is, for example, labor force participation, the measure of those who are both working and looking for work. And if we're able to elevate that, if we're able to get that back to a more normal level, then that would help to address this issue of the worker shortage and the near record level of job openings all across the country. The reality also, Tanya, is that the next iteration of normal or nominal will not be like the previous iteration. Working from home is just one example of that.
Yes, there's so many things are in flux. You know, we hear also a lot about people leaving their jobs, you know, sort of resigning and moving on into other jobs. Are they having the confidence to do this because they realize that workers are so highly valued right now?
Yeah, great point. Record number of job quitters, both the rate and the level at record numbers. We did a survey at Bankrate not that long ago that found that 55% of Americans were planning to look for work in the coming 12 months. And most interesting, Tanya, I think, is that they are prioritizing workplace flexibility as well as other aspects such as the opportunity to work remote or work from home above compensation. I don't think we would have seen that before the pandemic as well. So the balance of power has shifted to workers, and that's also why we're seeing increased number of strikes and other job actions in the U.S. right now.
And is that also why we're seeing lower wage jobs? You know, employees are having trouble filling those, because we talk about these labor shortages. Right. You go into stores, you go into restaurants, they're apologizing for the lack of staff. Is that because these are the sort of the jobs on the lower end of the pay scale, and it's just harder to fill those jobs when workers are so highly valued right now?
Yeah, that's part of it. Also, the working conditions are among the worst. Think about the fact that many of these people have shift work. They may not have full-time benefits, and they are lower paid. So that is one way that employers are trying to compensate for that, is to raise their wages, and that's where we're seeing those wage gains up 4.6% year over year in the last employment report. But that tends to be more skewed, affecting lower wage workers, who one could argue also are more in need of those increased wages. And as surveys have been done on holiday spending, it looks like those who are at the lower end of the income and wage scale are also cutting back on their plans for purchases as those federal benefits have basically gone away, and essentially all you have left now is the child tax credit as being something providing a real tailwind for consumers.
Right, right. It's interesting, though, because, obviously, even though there is a demand for workers and there may be a lot of people out there who say, let me take my chances. I don't like this job. Let me take my chances out there and see what else I can get. Certainly people can't afford not to work for a very long time. So will these jobs and will these openings at a certain point sort of settle? Will people find their spots?
Well, there will be, I think, more of a matching of supply and demand across the economic spectrum, whether we're talking about workers or we're talking about supplies. But unfortunately, I think that's going to take a lot longer than most people had expected by now. And that means there is a risk of higher and more sustained inflation and also more disruption. And frankly, also, Tanya, probably having to wait a little longer in those restaurants for the entree or whatever else to come to the table.
That's right. All right. Mark Hamrick, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.